This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... the 1955 Le Mans race disaster. Nate, do you know anything about this event, or Le Mans racing in general?
I'm trying to think. Le Mans race, is that when they're driving through the city, like on Iron Man 2?
No, that is F1.
Okay. No, I don't. I mean, I know I've heard the words before. It's not like it's like, oh, I've never heard those words put together doing something. It's not just that. I just don't know. I know next to nothing about it.
Gotcha. That's kind of what I figured. Well, the Le Mans race is a 24-hour race that's held near the town of Le Mans, France. And the winner of this isn't who comes in first, second, or third, but it's the car that travels the furthest number of miles after 24 hours of racing. They do swap out drivers, 2 drivers per car, so at whatever intervals they decide, they'll be like, pull over to the pit, new driver gets in and continues driving. And it is, 24 hours of continuous racing. It actually does go through a little bit of towns and stuff. It kind of does in a way, I guess. I mean, it doesn't feel like something you'd want to be there standing in the crowd standing around 24 hours for, but...
I mean, right. I mean, well, I don't know. For me, racing's kind of boring anyway. I mean, NASCAR is whatever. But
NASCAR is probably the boringest of all the races.
Oh, you think?
Honest. Well, I mean, they're just going around in a big oval.
Very true.
At least Le Mans and F1s, you got like little hairpin turns, you got corners, you got sneaky little straightaways, and every course is a little bit different. I don't know. NASCAR is just turn left. And if you don't turn left fast enough, you wind up like Dale Earnhardt. Yeah, probably anger some people with that one. But anyways, I don't care. Le Mans 24 hours race. Basically, all the big car companies like Jaguar, Mercedes, BMW, they'll enter their cars, and it's like, hey, here's the fastest car that we have that our engineers could design. Now we're gonna race it, and it's considered one of the 3 big daddies of racing. It's the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Indianapolis 500, and the Monaco Grand Prix. Those are considered the 3 big races that people want to compete in.
I've definitely heard of the middle one.
The Indianapolis 500. Yep.
Yeah, the last one, I think I see it referenced on video games.
Actually, I was just about to say, as a side note, Super Monaco on the Sega Genesis was a really fun racing game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
No, I know that track. Throw me out there and I'll win.
Yeah, exactly. So, this race, it started in 1923. It is the oldest active endurance racing event in the world. However, this year we'll be focusing on is 1955, a date that will live in infamy. This was one of the most anticipated racing years yet for the Le Mans. 3 of the winningest teams ever, Jaguar, Ferrari, and Mercedes, were all debuting their new state-of-the-art racing cars for the world to see. They're like, hey, these are going to just be mind-blowingly fast. And they were going to be by far the fastest cars on the track so far. By the way, track 8.38 miles, and it kind of goes through woods, little corners, it goes through little chunks of the town and stuff. So it's like a variety of areas you got to race through.
I have a question, though.
Yes.
So... this race is about how the miles traveled, not necessarily the fastest, correct?
Correct.
So, are they saying that their cars can go that fast, for a long, long time, or?
Basically, it's kind of a combination of things that is impressive with these cars. It's not only how fast they can go, but the fact they have to be built reliable enough to basically be running at full throttle 24 hours straight.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yep.
Because I went straight to marathon running, where it's but then again, it's right after I thought that, which is why I raised my objection, but before I actually got it out there, in my head's they're machines.
they never get tired.
Yeah, it's they're not dealing with the human body's a little more complex there, buddy.
Yep. But also you got to deal with the drivers or the human that are in there. Eventually, if you're racing off and on for 24 hours, you're going to get a little bit tired, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, dude, yeah.
And also, not only, a lot of these cars also didn't finish because they would just break down halfway through the race because,
I would expect that. I would absolutely expect.
Yep. It's probably why Ford never did good in the race. Anyways. So, like I was saying, these are going to be by far the fastest cars on that track so far. They were clocked at being able to do 170 miles per hour in the trials on this race. For comparison, the max speed for these cars when the track was built in 1923 was 60 miles per hour. And even though they widened out the course a little bit in spots, this was pretty much the exact same course that was built back in 1923. So basically, we got cars that are doing 170 miles an hour on a track that was designed for 60 miles an hour. In fact, the
amazing.
Yeah, right. In fact, Mercedes driver.
Go wrong?
Exactly. In fact, even Mercedes driver Pierre Levey complained, "We need a signal system between drivers. Our cars are going way too fast for this course. Something bad is going to happen." A little bit of foreshadowing there. 3 hours into the 24-hour race, and records are being broken left and right as the fastest cars on the planet battle for supremacy. And as we're getting towards the pit area, so, it's basically this long 8-mile race, think of it, and then there's a little area where it kind of like, there's this pit area where everybody can like pull in and, swap drivers, get their cars looked at and such and such. So as we're getting into this area, the Jaguar driver, he gets a signal from his pit crew to pull down into the pit area. He hits the brakes and he goes to slow down to the pit area on the right-hand side of the track. Now, this Jaguar was equipped with some of the best brakes in the automotive industry, and people had not seen a car brake this fast in pretty much ever. So when the Jaguar decided he needed to brake in a hurry and slow way down in a hurry to get into the pits, the Austin Healey car behind him was not ready for how quick that dude started to stop. So the Austin Healey, so picture this, the Jaguar is like immediately hits his brakes and almost comes to a dead stop. He's going to the pits. There's an Austin Healey car that's right behind him, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm about to rear end this Jaguar." So he takes a hard left and tries to scoot around the Jaguar and try to, safely avoid him. But because this Austin Healey is also doing 150 miles an hour at this time, he starts to lose control, and instead of gracefully passing around the side of the Jaguar, he starts fishtailing.
Gracefully.
Yeah. He winds up fishtailing out to the middle of the track. And as all this happens, the fastest car on the track that everybody expected to win comes roaring into play. The Mercedes 300 SLR. Beautiful car, by the way. He comes roaring into the picture doing 150 miles an hour. So,
he had an atomic engine in the tragedy. That was the secret. Unfortunately, no one lived.
The nuclear blast wiped out everybody in a 10-mile radius. As the Mercedes, all of a sudden, he's cruising along at 150. And Austin Healey shoots right in front of him, and he has literally no time to react. Things are just going downhill. He has a chance to do one thing, and all he does is he shoots up his hand to signal the driver behind him that it's about to go down and you need to get out of the way in a hurry. The driver behind him that got signaled was actually the other Mercedes driver, so nice little bit of teamwork there, I guess. However, this move would in fact save the life of the driver behind him, but the actual driver of the Mercedes, the one who threw up his hand and was about to go into a wreck, well, he didn't do so well. I should point out, too, if you're thinking about the cars that they have in this race, think Speed Racer. So basically like open-top cars, all swoopy, kind of looks like a bar of soap. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
No safety features.
Thanks for that image. For correcting that image, because I was thinking of like more of those little not box cars, but those cars they race off-road and stuff.
Gotcha. Right. Yep, nope, these are like Speed Racer style cars, like completely open top, tiny little like 6-inch windshield, no seatbelts, no safety things. Real man racing.
Should I assume the fate of the dude from RoboCop is very similar to the fate of this guy?
Wait, which guy from RoboCop?
Oh, you the one you got hit by a car, you got splattered and turned into like mush.
Oh, this guy didn't actually like get swamped in radioactive fluid and mutate. I assume you're talking about that guy.
Yes, that guy. Well, I'm not talking about the mutate, but I am talking about being hit by a car and turned into goo.
Gotcha. Nope. What happens is actually far more horrifying. So we got the Mercedes, and he's about to rear end this Austin Healey. And because of the aerodynamic shape of these cars, the Austin Healey actually acted as a ramp for the Mercedes. So instead of like a rear end bonk, think of more like a rear end, and I'm going to just shoot off of him like, almost like a Dukes of Hazzard sort of thing.
That's amazing.
And I should also let
horrible,
you know that,
yes, it's horrific. Yeah. But let's Off Topic does acknowledge the tragedy. However, it was also amazing.
I should also let you know that this is one of the most popular live events in the world at the time, and there are massive crowds the entire length of the course, especially around this pit area that we're talking about. I mean, you can see a picture of them. There's just a wall of people as far as the eye can see, just like crowded up to the track as close as they can, because again, there's like no safety regulations back then. They're just like, you want to see the race? Get as close as you can. Touch the cars as they drive by if you dare. We don't care.
Touch the car.
Yeah.
Graze your hand.
Yeah, I'm assuming people tried to do that because, I mean, literally, there's like pictures of people like leaning over the track, like reaching out, be like, hey, driver.
Dude, there's not a world that they did not do that often.
Yeah. So, anywho, the Mercedes launches through the air off the back of that Austin Healey, and he flies through the air, starts coming down, and perfectly times it so he hits the barricade on the side of the racetrack, and his car probably begins to somersault end over end through that packed crowd of people at 120 miles an hour. The car almost immediately bursts into flames and starts shooting flaming car parts everywhere, including the engine comes dismantled and rolls like a bowling ball through the crowd, cutting people in half, smashing them, spraying, burning oil and burning gas everywhere. The car itself, flipping end over end, slamming into people, crushing them, flattening them out. Axle comes loose and spins around, killing people left and right. Best part, the hood comes loose, Nate. The hood comes loose and goes flying through the air like a discus at 150 miles an hour, chopping off people's heads. Literally, people got decapitated
Jesus.
by a flying hood through the crowd. Yeah. So not only that, the flying hood going through the crowd is bad enough. But one thing that happened with this car is to make it the lightest car possible. They had a magnesium alloy frame because it is nice, light, strong. But also one problem is it melts very easily and tends to catch on fire. So now all of a sudden we have molten balls of magnesium frame flying through the air, hitting people, melting them.
You can't see me, I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, the axle popped off, crushing a bunch of people. Well, actually, I'll go to the next part.
So I was picturing the end of that. The driver gets out. He's like, kind of waves his hands like, I'm okay.
Well, actually, I can go to that right now. The driver, well, he was basically thrown from the car because, no seatbelts or anything. And when this thing goes end over end, it just basically yeeted him right out the top of it. And he hit the ground. And, when you hit the ground at 150, you're basically dead instantly. So they say even with the helmet on, his skull was crushed as soon as he hit that pavement.
With the helmet on, his body, his head was fine. His body was not.
The best part was, though, his body went flying the opposite direction of the car, shooting across the track and landed in front of the pit crew that was about to work on him, including the replacement driver watching this all and his wife, who was waiting in the pit crew to say hi to him and, wish him well on the race.
That is amazing. I mean, it's terrible. That's awful. Yeah. Oh my God. That is.
I know. It's like somebody just wrote
comical,
this.
But oh my God. That is.
Here we are laughing at a woman who probably had to go through more therapy than anybody in the history.
Everyone's standing there waiting to go, and all of a sudden his body just flop, and his wife's like,
"Yep." That was my exact thought too. She's like standing there with flowers, like, "Oh my, he'll be here soon. I love him so much." Oh God.
Yeah. It's like the camera pans in on her face and just look like, okay.
Even better, I like to think of the fact is that, like, the replacement driver had been like eyeing the other driver's wife for a long time, and this is like his time to make his move. Be like, so widowed now, huh?
Like immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Just like she's like crying over the corpse. She's like taps her on the shoulder, be like, we should go out to dinner later and talk about this. I don't think that's actually what happened, but that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're both pretty traumatized.
This is awesome. Yeah, yes, I acknowledge it's terrible. This actually happened. It's awful, but still, I'm sorry.
In the meantime, well, this body is like laying there and people are being traumatized. To add to some fun of it, so we got the flaming car wreckage like in the middle of this crowd, and people are just like running around dying and on fire and stuff. Fire department shows up and they decide to put out the fire with water. But what they didn't know apparently was either they didn't know this happened or they didn't know there was a magnesium frame on the car. But apparently when you hit magnesium fire with water, it explodes. So they show up to put out the fire. Water hits that frame and the frame explodes a second time, showering people with molten magnesium. Basically, a giant fireball happened a second time. Oof. In a matter of seconds, 82 people were killed and as many as 178 were maimed, though some say number is much higher. And also they say it wasn't injured. Maimed was the term they used, and that sounds much worse than injured.
Yeah. Injured's like, oh, he has some burns. Maimed's
Maimed's like, my arm's gone.
Yeah, like this is some serious.
So, it was also so bad, basically they had priests going around giving last rites at people because there's so many people like laying there dying and bleeding out. Now, Nate, if you would like some pictures of it, if you go into our little chat thing that we have, there should be like a little text channel called Le Mans. And you can see some of the races, including like a picture of recreating how the car hit the barricade and went flying over it and flipping down it. Giant piles of fire everywhere.
Someone made a cartoon. Or a little
comic. Yeah. You can actually see footage of this happening too. And I can't tell if it's actual like footage or if it's like, when they take pictures and they can recreate a video out of that back in the day. It might have been one of those kind of things. But yeah, you can see it flying through the crowd. Not good times. Not good times at all. But if there is one thing about this whole incident that shows us that God truly does smile on us in our darkest times, Nate, like the car wreck, it happened off of one side of the track. The dead body shot off the other side of the track. So that means the track is clear. The race can keep going, Nate. Yep, the higher up said, nope, track is clear. We're going to keep on racing. Everybody keep going.
Wow.
So, yep. And also, too, this one thing that it's easy to forget. This track is 8 miles. So this wreck only happened in one tiny spot. So there's a lot of drivers who don't even know this is going on. There's people on the other side of the track watching who have no idea this is going on. So, yeah, just picture you're a racing car driver puttering around. Everything's going normally. And you come around a corner and there's just fire everywhere and dead bodies. It's like, you're like, what do I do about this? Oh, you keep racing, son. Track's clear. You keep doing it.
Oh, go.
Yeah, exactly. Technically, the guy who won the race was a Mercedes driver that didn't die in the wreck, and they got signaled and actually made it out alive. However, at the last minute in the race, Mercedes decided it's probably going to be bad optics if we win this after everybody died. So they bowed out of the race at the last moment.
Uh-huh.
And Jaguar, the kind of the car that started the whole wreck, they basically gave them options like, kind of bad optics on this. You can bow out if you want to. And they're like, nope, we're here to win. And they finished the race and they technically won, which, some people took that the wrong way and were pretty mad at Jaguar. I don't think Jaguar really cared because they're Jaguar. The race director, when questioned about it, he came up with a series of statements to justify the reasons to keep the race going. Some of them were actually pretty reasonable. Like, if they called off the race right then and there, everybody would have left at once. Streets would have been jammed. Emergency vehicles would have been stuck. They couldn't do what nobody would have been able to get there. And, that kind of makes sense.
Look at that lens. You kind of understand the question is, were they thinking that?
Yeah.
Was that a happy happenstance or...
Yeah, he should have probably stopped talking there because he kind of went on to say other stuff like quoting the line, "The show must go on," and said that other races had wrecks and kept going. And
there it is.
Yep. And then he also pointed out that if the race didn't finish, the sponsors and other companies might sue for a breach of contract, and that'd be a money loss for Le Mans. And finally, the last reason he threw out was the old, and anyway, I didn't even have the authority to cancel a race. The other dude had the authority and he was on vacation. It wasn't even my job to make this call. So, yeah. Dude, honestly, the dude should have shut up right after everyone would have jammed, but
it would have been fine with just had we canceled, it would have actually caused more problems. We kept it going, so people stayed, and that's all, and then you move on. But no, people back then didn't. There's no, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah, picture some dude off to the side during that speech, giving him the knock it off sign, no, cut it out. Yeah. Stop talking.
Frantically waving.
Yeah, it's just you're making this worse. So yeah, in the end, 80 to 84 people were dead, spectators, including the race driver, either by flying debris or from the fire or the explosion the fire department did, or so on and so forth. A further 120 to 178 were injured, although some people say the number is probably a lot higher, and they kind of tried to tone it down a little bit, Again, sponsors and stuff. It remains the most catastrophic crash in motorsports history. A special mass was held in the morning at Le Mans Cathedral for the first funerals of the victims. Basically, the fallout from this, there's a temporary ban on motorsports in the countries of France, Spain, Switzerland, and West Germany, and a few other nations until they say racetracks could be brought to a higher safety standard. I think most of them were back in the racing in less than a year, so they probably didn't care that much.
Mean, again, it was also fucking 1955. In 1955, you can get away with just it was a different time.
Yeah, they didn't want to be blown up in a race. They shouldn't have gone to the race. That's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of if you didn't want to get molested, you shouldn't have gone over to Uncle Slippy Fist's house. It's always the victim to be blamed back then. Yeah, I'm not wrong.
No, you weren't. As
far as the blame, they rapidly tried to put the blame on anybody and everybody they could. At first, they tried to blame the Jaguar driver for slowing down too fast, but that never really stuck because, how can you really fault somebody for slowing down too fast? The racing body also tried to claim that that magnesium frame explosion from the fire department tried to put it out. They initially tried to claim the fact that Mercedes had added explosive chemicals to their fuel to make the car go faster. So they're basically nope. That whole magnesium frame explosion, that had nothing to do with us. But eventually, after a year of investigation, the fault was determined to be, drumroll please, the fault of no one. Just an accident no one could have seen coming. Nope, not one person could have seen this coming, the track that had 150-mile-an-hour cars on it. That's designed for 60-mile-an-hours. one thing that came outside of this. So the guy who was waiting in the pits to replace the one driver who watched his buddy like turn as a flaming ball of flesh in front of him.
Yeah.
He went on to invent what's known as the Fitch barrels, I believe is what they're called. And those are the safety barrels you see on the side of highways that are full of sand. So if somebody goes out of control and slams into them, it's just like a sand barricade that slows them down. He invented those. He became a champion for racing safety after this whole thing. I could see how that would be your takeaway from seeing that kind of wreck.
Yeah, but the one thing that popped in my head is like, so what happened was he was standing there watching the tragedy in front of him, and he goes, those people, like, those cars are plowing through those people like they're bags of sand. Yeah, bags of sand.
That's probably exactly what it was. He watched the car like slow down after hit one really fat dude. He's like, that man's like a bag of sand.
He's like, people are like, oh wow, this is really helping people on roads. Like, yeah, just imagine a bunch of people standing side by side.
We tried to do that with orphan children at first, but turns out the orphanages wouldn't let us just take as many kids as we wanted. Here, children, stand here and be a barrier.
The way they compensated for that was the bags of sand weigh as much as a child. He's like, these represent orphan children.
I like that. So the Austin Healey, the car that was the impromptu ramp, afterwards, in 1969, it was actually bought in an auction for 155 pounds, or the equivalent of $3,000 in 2023 money. That seems kind of like not much money for a piece of history, to be honest. In December 2011, yeah.
You could say, I guess it's bad, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it's still history.
Yeah. I mean, somewhere I'm sure somebody has like Hitler's mustache saved in a jar somewhere.
Absolutely. There's 100%. Someone out there has.
Yeah, there's somewhere there's just an upper lip with a mustache on it floating in a pickle jar.
They never know what happened to his body.
Yeah. So in December 2011, that car was auctioned again and was sold for 843,000 pounds, or close to $1 million nowadays. Because of this, Mercedes decided to bow out of Le Mans racing for 30 years, not returning until 1985. And then they raced again for another 14 years until they had a second spectacular wreck that killed a bunch of people. And, it was a non-fatal crash in 1999. And,
oh, boo. I was like, yeah. Whatever you do, don't Jaguar in your race.
Yeah. If there's ever a Mercedes car in a race, you need to be very careful of that because they might kill you. So there you go, Nate. That's pretty much the long and the short of that race. Kind of a shorter episode, but...
yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, we got to the point. A lot of people died. Not good times. Don't crowd next to a racetrack, apparently. But yeah.
Man.
Yeah, especially with like that hood flying off and decapitating people. Could you imagine just standing there watching that happen?
Oh,
You're just like minding your own business, and all of a sudden a car goes vaulting next to you, and the dude next to you's head just flies off from a hood.
It reminded me of what movie was that? It was like a boat movie. Do you remember that?
Speed 2?
Ghost Ship. And by the way, I've never seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer, and part of the trailer was this wire goes and like snaps. It goes through a bunch of people. That's what it reminded me of. This just
those tethering wires. Yeah, apparently those literally will go through somebody.
Yeah, it's like I just imagine this thing just flying through the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really sucks. That's what I mean. It wouldn't have happened to me because I don't like races. And
here. Sucks to be them, but that's what they get for being a race fan.
Right. Well, I guess it's the unwritten thing. Like, you're going to a place, because even now in NASCAR, there is not a 0% chance with NASCAR cars couldn't like get a massive wreck thrown in the air and just land on somebody.
A lot of people in those crowds are actively hoping that happens and they get a seat.
Right.
I mean, they don't want the car to land on them, but I mean, if it killed somebody else, they'd be absolutely fine with that. And be like, I gotta see it.
I mean, I think there are even I have the computer in front of me. You can probably look it up. I'm not gonna. Hasn't there been times where like wheels have come off cars and like hit people in the stands?
Yep, that has happened.
Yeah, it's like I could have swore I've seen like images of that.
There's also a Simpsons scene you might be thinking of too, where somebody got crushed by a tire that same way.
Well, yeah,
but that's also based off of a real situation. Yeah.
Yeah, Simpsons did it.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.